Hey, my name's Rachel. This is episode 85 of Aussie Online Growing on Shopify. I'm going to speak to you today about Facebook ad metrics that matter. This is key if you advertise on Meta, if you maybe have before and don't any longer, if you'd like to start doing so, or if you do pretty often, consistently, or have in the past and continue to do so. And maybe you have questions about what metrics really matter and what metrics are maybe not so much as important as some others when you're measuring the performance of your ad campaigns. I have built two Shopify micro brands and I use social media for the bulk of my new customer acquisition. I get a lot of repeat customers. My repeat customer rate on Shopify is pretty decent. It hovers around 35 to 40%. But most of my new customer acquisitions come through Facebook and Instagram. And I've done that through paid advertising, through sponsored posts, and through built campaigns in the back of Meta. I've spent over 80 grand of my own cash on the platform in the last 4 years to learn what I have learned about advertising on the platform. And one of the questions I have received via email from some podcast listeners is what metrics even matter? Like, what metrics do you even use when evaluating if a campaign is performing well or needs tweaking or needs scaling or needs, scrapping and starting again with some new campaigns and doing some new testing? So I want to answer that question for you today. I hope you find this episode helpful if you are trying to navigate the online space of Meta, excuse me, or advertising on the platform, and you're unsure what really matters. If you have an agency that looks after this for you, you may also find this beneficial, because one thing I have found about agencies is that when you are brand new, if you join an agency as a brand new client and you're a very tiny client, is that you will get there often, you probably all the time, you will get their beginner, brand new intern staff members who are being coached and paid by the organization that you are paying to learn. So your ad account is potentially being used as a bit of a guinea pig to train their staff. That's probably usual and expected in the world. I'm sure that's like usual around the world for new staff members to get tiny ad accounts and to learn and to sort of cut their teeth on the dollars that those CEOs are spending with that agency. But hey, guess what? Like, it is your money you are spending on the platform. Hey, like, no one values our money in our business as much as we do as small business owners. And I work with businesses with tiny baby ad budgets to grow visibility on social media. And I do that with ads. You can grow organically for sure, but I'm far too old to grow organically on social media alone anymore. Organic, I believe, works best when paired with paid advertising on Meta. That's what I do day in and day out. Like I said, I've spent over 80 grand of my own money building two small micro Shopify brands. I sold one of those brands at the end of 2023 and I continue to build the other one. That's the platform I come from, the expertise I have from advertising day after day after day through all the ups and downs in the last 4 years that there has been on the online space, particularly around advertising and privacy issues related to Apple. So I'm going to share with you today a little bit of a quick snippet of my 5 top metrics that I would go to when evaluating a client's ad account to give them a bit of an audit of what went well and what didn't go well, what they're doing really well with and what they're not doing really well with. It can be very hard to look at a statistic or a percentage or a dollar sign in the back of Meta and have any understanding of what that really means and whether it's a good metric or not a good metric, unless you have some sort of comparison or some sort of knowledge of the platform in general, what you can expect from it. Unless you have knowledge of your own business, your customers and your AOV and how much revenue you already get from your business and where that traffic is coming from, it can be very hard to evaluate whether the dollars you are spending on Meta are worthwhile dollars, whether the metrics and the stats that you are seeing in the back of Meta on your campaigns is even good, like if those metrics are good or not good. So I'm going to tell you my top 5 metrics. There are so many metrics, and the what's the word I'm looking for? The computations or the combinations are in the thousands. Because if you start with a stack of 10 different objectives, for instance, and then you look at the number of data points you can measure against each of those objectives. There must be 100 of them. But then you start combining all the different objectives and mixing them up when you put together a whole ad suite. Like, it can absolutely feel like a dog's breakfast, probably, if you're not familiar with how the platform works. And it is a specialized skill. If somebody wants to build ads for you and run ads for you and get you, I don't know, 7 ROAS or something, just like that, I would be cautious. I have found just in the last week, it's only been a week, I'm really trying to go back through all my podcast episodes and actually start to trying to build the audience around this podcast. I have recorded, 85 podcasts now, and I have done nothing with that content as far as social goes or anything, as you all well know. But I'm going back to try and actually make the use of all that content I have here on this podcast, and then to try and, do something with it and make the most of all the content I have, which is what I teach for all my e-commerce brands. But in doing that, I have been a little shocked and saddened at how many spam messages I have received that have reached out to my social accounts and email of offers and help and expertise. It makes me really sad sometimes to feel like I'm part of an industry that is full of gurus and get rich quick scammers, because that's honestly how it feels sometimes. So I am so aware that my podcast to you is brutal, raw, honest, and actual experiences I have had as a small business owner growing with social media. I don't make stuff up. I don't assume stuff. I don't Google what's the best advice to give on Facebook ads and tell you that. The advice you get from me is what I've lived and what I continue to go through day after day in building a brand. Because since I've sold one, so building a brand on social media using Meta. So that's what I really wanted to share with you today. I hope you find this helpful and valuable. There are many metrics on the platform you can look at, and all of them actually matter to some degree. So I'm not going to talk to you about reach today, because reach is down on my list as far as metrics that matter at a high level. Like, reach matters in its own way, of course, depending on what objective you set. I have a couple of episodes, and I've talked about them many times, that I doubled my organic reach in January of 2024 using a volume posting strategy. I posted 3 times a day through January, and I doubled my reach in January 2024 from December 2023. That was the purpose of that exercise. So in that scenario, reach absolutely mattered. That was the metric I was measuring. But if you are advertising on Facebook and Instagram, reach is probably the least of your concerns. It would be the least of my concerns as well, and it always has been when I've advertised. There are many other metrics I would put far above checking reach, because many other metrics will give you similar information and much more valuable information. And if reach is a problem, you'll soon diagnose that anyway as we go through these other metrics. So let me tell you what these are. This is the first top 5 metrics I would look in any client's account to ascertain whether these are performing well or not performing well. And then obviously do some digging from there to find out what's going on with things that are doing well or things that are going wrong, and help a client discover why has something gone wrong, and help them work out what the issue is and how to fix it. Number 1, let's assume you are spending money on Facebook and Instagram because you are looking to grow your customers or clients. So you really do need a return on that money. You are not just advertising for brand awareness. You don't just want to build your audience. You don't just want to grow a page. Maybe you want to grow a fan page. Then these metrics are not in the order I would rank them. These metrics are in order for an e-commerce brand. So I'm advertising on the platform and I want sales, or I want clients. I need some sort of obvious connection with my website, my newsletter, add to carts, purchases. I need to see my customer base growing because of these advertising efforts. So let me go through the top 5. I'm so excited to share these with you. I hope you find them as valuable as I have found writing them all down for you, and pulling them from my audit kind of checklist that I would do with somebody. The top one is not ROAS. I feel like ROAS has had its day. For me, ROAS has had its day. In 2020 and 2021, ROAS was it. That was the only thing you looked at, but it was the key metric. ROAS was what everything was evaluated on. And any YouTube video you found or any Google search you did about metrics, ROAS was it, which is called return on ad spend. So ROAS. But you know what? These days, I don't look at ROAS actually ever. I'm going to say nearly ever. I certainly don't use ROAS as a measure for evaluating performance of a campaign, and I'll tell you why that is, because I believe cost per result is a far more superior metric. My top metric for anything I look at in campaigns for myself or for clients is cost per result. Cost per result is amazing because depending on the type of campaign you set up, that's the type of metric it will give you. For instance, if I set up a dynamic shopping campaign, then I'm looking for cost per purchase. If I set up a video views campaign, my cost per result will give me cost per video view. If I set up an add to cart campaign, then the cost per result gives me back the cost per add to cart. So the cost per result metric will fluctuate and feed you the information based off of the campaign objective that you set, which is why I think it's the most powerful, and I would prefer to use cost per result over any other metric on the platform. It's my top metric, and I rarely look at ROAS. Sometimes it's interesting to look at ROAS, but ROAS is so not irrelevant. What's the word I'm looking for? Inaccurate. It's so inaccurate now, unless you're comparing with a third-party plugin app as well that can sift through that privacy issue and find the right data, or at least look at it against Google Analytics, which I do. You go into G4 and have a look at and compare the two, which I do before changing anything in my ads. I would go to G4. Just want to put that out there. Don't change things on the platform in Facebook without checking what Google tells you as well and match them up. But let's assume you're not doing that. Then ROAS doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter to me what the return on my ad spend is. I want to know how much a purchase cost me. I want to know how much an add to cart costs me. I want to know how much a post engagement costs me. I want to know how much a video view, a viewed content costs me, and initiate checkout. All of those metrics are important when you are spending money on the platform to see if you are getting what you have asked Facebook to get you. I've asked Facebook for purchases. How much is each of those purchases costing me? That's important because then I can go and compare it to my AOV. So if a cost per result for a purchase conversion campaign on Meta costs me $32, for instance, and my AOV is 78, I feel really good about that. I feel like, okay, I've paid for that acquisition of that customer on Meta for $32, but that's okay. I have a really great returning customer percentage through Shopify. I can upsell them. I can send them newsletters and emails and new products. I can interact with them via email over time. And there's a high percentage they will purchase again and again and again and again. So cost per result is my favorite metric, and it's the top one. I evaluate e-commerce brands. Of course, if you're not an e-commerce brand, cost per result is still important, just not with purchase conversion, but it's still an important metric for other types of campaigns. Like I said, engagement, video views, viewed content, landing page views, engagement, likes, blah, 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 all of them. So that's my top one that I would suggest going to. It's the easiest one to see how you are spending money on the platform, what you are getting in return. As a small business owner, if you are only spending a baby budget, to me, a baby budget is like 2 cups of coffee a day. If you are spending between $6 and $9 every day on the platform and starting out and finding your feet, then this is the best metric to tell you whether what you are spending is getting you a reasonable return. Am I happy to spend $6 on one link click through? No, I don't think so. But am I happy to spend $6 on an initiate checkout? Yes, I think maybe I am, because I have abandoned cart sequences set up in Klaviyo and things as well. So cost per result. I hope that was one metric that you have taken to heart. I really encourage you to, next time you look in the back of Meta, if you advertise there, find that metric. If it doesn't default for you, which it doesn't default for you, have to go find it and set that up as part of your default view, and make sure you look at that before you look at anything else. The next metric I love to look at that I would evaluate a campaign on is unique click-through rate. The unique click-through rate. Not just the umbrella click-through rate. I don't want to see just the umbrella click-through rate. I want to see the unique link click-through rate, which is more targeted on the unique visitors, like the number of visitors. So not just me who clicks on let's see. So I see an ad on Facebook and I click on the image and open up a carousel. I then click on the see more in the copy and it previews more text. Then I decide to click on the read more and it takes me to a blog. So I've clicked a couple of times around there. I've clicked on the comments and now I'm reading the comments. And then I like to comment. I don't really want to know that metric as an advertiser because it's the same person doing all of those actions, which is important to know, but it's not the most important thing to know. What I need to know with link click through is how many people have gone to where I sent them. So how many people have left the platform? How many people have left Meta to go where I want them to go? Not how many people clicked on the see more preview text, not how many people clicked on the comments or clicked like or anything like that. All of those clicks to me really, really unhelpful because I set the campaign up to send them somewhere. So remember, when you're with advertising always on Meta, remember why you set the campaign up to begin with. Like I said at the beginning, I'm not looking at reach. Reach is the metric I would use. But in this scenario, it's not what I've asked Facebook to get me. I'm not interested in how much reach I got. I want to know how many purchases or how many customers I got. So in that case, I'm not so much interested in reach. So in this scenario, link click through or link clicks may be helpful for you in other types of campaigns and objectives and what you need from the platform. But when I'm looking at how many people have gone to my website or to a product page or to a blog, I actually just want to know how many of those people did that. And that's important because I want to know if my creative is performing well. Because if your unique link click through is less than 1%, it's far too low. It should be at least 1% for your unique link click through, which tells me when I look at your account and it tells me when I look at my own account that the performance of the creative, like the image and the copy, is good. It doesn't need tweaking. Of all the things you could tweak inside your ad campaigns, you don't need to worry about the creative if your unique link click through is above 1%. Of course, if you set up, like I said, if you set up a campaign deliberately to get you link click-throughs or link clicks, you should expect to see a percentage far higher than 1% because Facebook is very good at getting you the things you ask it to get you. It sometimes just costs you a whole lot more money, and that becomes a problem, in which case that's why we need to monitor and evaluate these things. But if you are looking for link clicks, then you set the campaign up with that objective. Of course, you should expect to see a far higher percentage click through than 1%. But across the board, 1% I think is the bare minimum for e-commerce. You should expect it to probably be higher than 1%. But if it is at 1% or around that, it's not like it's urgent. You don't need to urgently fix something about that. In fact, even like my video views, I have a video views campaign at the moment. I think it's at 0.62%. That's fine. The campaign is not set up to move people to my website. It's video views. I just need people to watch the video I've said. So it doesn't really matter in that sense how many people are leaving the platform to my website. Some of them doing so is great. So any percentage there is a good percentage because that's not what the campaign was set up for. So all of this you take with the framework of why the campaign was set up to begin with, what parameters did you give it, what campaign objective did you set up to begin with. So that's my second metric. I look at that straight away. It gives me just a quick snapshot, a clear idea if the creative and the copy is good. It obviously then tells you it's matching the audience. So if the creative and the copy are good, this percentage is a good percentage. You've got a good match between your creative and your copy and your audience. Next one I've got is content views. I actually really like this one. Content views is really important for me because, again, we've sent people off the platform. So this is important. They've left the platform. So I want to see how many content views there are on a particular campaign when I've asked people to leave Facebook and either go check out a product or check out a blog post. They're probably the two main ones. Or check out a giveaway. So any of those things, when you ask someone to leave the platform and you're sending them to your website, what are the content views on that campaign? Content views are also a good indication, a bit of a good first look at a bit of a bounce rate. And I know bounce rate is a Google Analytics term, But imagine if you see that your campaign, you set up a campaign and you have a unique link click through of 4%. That's fantastic. Then you look at the same campaign, and in the last 30 days, you've had 4 content views. There's a serious drop off and mismatch between a 4% click through over 30 days, which could be hundreds and hundreds of people, and then only 4 or 5 or 6 people actually viewing the content on the page. There's a big problem there, a really big problem. There's either a tech issue, they've landed somewhere that's non-existent, that didn't work. There's a mismatch between what you are saying on social media versus where they land. So it feels clickbaity and they're really like freaked out and it's completely untrustworthy, so they bounce. There's a mismatch there with the audience. So it's the wrong audience you've asked to click through because none of them are hanging about. So a content view, in case you didn't realize, content view means they're viewing the content. It's very simple. Someone say, oh, that makes perfect sense. It just means they're hanging about for a little bit. So a content view is perfect for a blog. A content view objective I often set up for a blog. Sometimes for products too, because it's a great little step along the marketing funnel for a customer journey of a content view. You know, they've left the platform, they're not going to add to cart yet, but they're going to scroll through and look at the content on that page. So that's good. It's a good little push for somebody further along the marketing funnel. But let's assume you sent them to a blog. That's usually where I send people for a content view. Then you want them to land there and scroll a bit and have a bit and absorb some of that information. So if you see a great click-through rate from the campaign, but then the content views, once they land where you need them to land, is really low, there's a big problem somewhere in between there and they've all dropped off, which is why I kind of think of it as a bit of a bounce rate. I like to see that drop off. I also then like to see the drop off from content view to add to cart. But I didn't put add to cart in this scenario because I've just got with the top 5. So let's just stick with 5. I don't want to go into too many, otherwise it just becomes too much information. And if you have to care about every metric on the platform, you're going to care about none of it because it can be very overwhelming if you're not familiar with it. So I've stuck with my top 5. But I do like to see the drop off then content views to add to carts, and of course add to carts to initiate checkouts. As long as I'm matching those up with Google Analytics as well, because Facebook takes credit for everything. Even though it contributes to definitely not everything. So that's another one, content views. That may be one you don't usually see and you've never measured before. I really encourage you to go check. I really encourage you, if you have campaigns running and you're in the back of the platform, to go and check content views you've had on some campaigns recently and see what that tells you about the campaign. Is it match did your headline, your creative, your copy then match where they landed? Did it match the blog? Did it match the product? Do they feel like there's cohesion there? Is it a sensible customer journey? Or is it really clickbaity and they've landed somewhere they didn't expect or don't trust and they've just bounced? And in which case it won't register as a content view. The second to last one, number 4. So let me do again. The top one was cost per result. The second one is unique link click-through rate. The third one is content views. The fourth one is frequency. I love frequency. Frequency is great to determine what campaigns are worth scaling and not scaling. It's also a great way to find some inefficiency or efficiencies in your campaign and perhaps claw some budget back that you are spending needlessly. So frequency is how often these people are seeing your content. How often is someone seeing your post and your ad? And if your frequency hovers around 4, it's not bad, pretty good. I don't like my frequency to creep over 4. At the moment, I have a dynamic shopping catalog campaign running, and the frequency is around 3, which is just a sweet spot for me. I'm very happy with 3. It means it's an average though. So it means some people are seeing your content more and some less. So it is an average. So not everybody is seeing it 3 times. And I think it's in a weekly cycle, it resets. But some are seeing it less than 3, some are seeing it more than 3. It's an average. But could you imagine if that frequency was 8 or 10? That's an immediate sign of a couple of things. Definitely that you're spending far too much money on that. Your audience is being like walloped with a heap of stuff from you that is just over the top. But perhaps your audience is too small for your budget because the people in your audience are seeing it far too often. So you could either make your audience bigger or you could rein your budget in. If your frequency is very low, like 1 or 1.3 or 1.5, which some of my campaigns are, that's okay. But if you're looking to scale, you've got room to move there. You could totally up your budget. Don't go in and double your budget or anything. We reset the algorithm, and you may regret that. So there's ways of scaling, of course, but if your frequency is only very small, like 1 or 1.5, I would suggest either increasing your budget or making your audience size smaller. If you don't want to spend more, that's fine. Just make your audience size a little bit small, or a lot smaller. You might be like at 3 million, drop it to 1 million. Like, just make the audience smaller so the frequency can kick up a little bit, so that people are seeing you more often. You get a better chance to become familiar with who you are and who your brand is, and they're more likely to see some of your other creatives that you have happening as well, with your audience size a bit smaller. So that is my fourth metric. Number 5 is CPMs, and CPMs is definitely if you are advertising Facebook and Meta, you have heard of CPMs before. CPMs is a very key metric. I like to look at CPMs as a bit of a health check. CPMs just tells you if things are running smoothly. CPMs means cost per impression. In other words, how much does it cost you for 1,000 people to see your ad? How much is Facebook charging you, the advertiser, for 1,000 impressions on somebody's or in your audience's news feed? So this makes sense when your CPM is low or high, if things are going well or not well. Sometimes my CPMs are really low, and then if all the other metrics are good, I'm like cheering. I'm thinking, yes, this is perfect. I'm getting some bargain advertising here on Facebook. My CPMs are like $6, and I'm getting people off the platform, which is more expensive than staying on the platform, and they're signing up to my newsletter and things. I'm wrapped. Thinking that is a great little sweet spot of a combo there. People are leaving the platform, which costs more money anyway, and they're consuming the content when they leave. Plus, Facebook is only charging me $6.50 per 1,000 impressions. Then I'm cheering. But that's not usually that cheap. That's pretty good price for CPMs. So you can expect your CPMs to increase for a couple of reasons, and some of those reasons are okay and some of those reasons aren't. If my CPMs are going up because what's my example here? Because I am showing a dynamic shopping catalog ad to a retargeting audience, then that's okay. That's expected. I'm sharing the most expensive content, which is dynamic shopping catalog, like a really expensive campaign, to a very small bunch of people, which is my retargeting audience. Facebook will charge me a mozza for that. I'm going to pay a lot of money for that campaign. So if the CPMs are really high for that campaign, for me, it depends on the account. Of course, it depends on the account, but for me, in my e-commerce brand, expensive inside that account is about $30. So about $29, $34 CPMs is pricey for me. But that's okay if I'm showing a shopping catalog campaign to a retargeting audience, then that's an okay price to pay. But if I'm showing, what's an idea? If I'm spending $30, if my CPMs are $30 per 1,000 impressions for a video views or an engagement campaign, something's way off. There is no way those sorts of campaigns with a very low, what's the word I'm looking for? Very low buy-in from a potential customer or client on the Facebook end. All they have to do is like a post or like your page or watch a video. There's no way your CPMs should be that high. If they are, there's something amiss along the way. Sometimes all it takes is actually just duplicating that campaign and kicking the old one, starting a brand new one because there's something that's gone amiss. But sometimes it's to do with your ad or your audience. So it's the wrong audience, or it's an expensive audience. Do you know, like you maybe targeted an audience on Facebook of, I don't know, I'm just making this up, like eco-friendly $1 million households. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like a very niche, expensive type, luxury car drivers type audience. And then maybe that's why the CPMs are high. But sometimes it could be high as well because of something in your ad that Facebook doesn't like. They're like, it's not bad enough that they've stopped your campaign or like deleted it. So your campaign's still running, but they're charging you a lot for it. So you have to decide whether you want to ride that out or not. If let's say your ad campaign, you're advertising for something that's not illegal but a little sketchy. We've all seen those ads. If you're advertising for something that's not illegal but a little sketchy, your CPMs could be really high. If you're advertising for something where you use a lot of language in your ads that Facebook doesn't like a lot of language like you could get this or get slimmer now, or are you depressed, or are you like really language there, just Facebook hates that sort of language, then your CPMs could be really high. So you have to decide whether you want to ride that out or not. Is it still worth it to you or not worth it to you? So that could be a reason why your CPMs are high. So I like to look at CPMs because it gives you a really quick health check on the state of that campaign. If things are going pretty well to plan, or if something's going amiss, or if things are going really well and you're just not sure that they are, CPMs could give you that clue. Like I might a campaign when I run an image to a product and I get less than $8 CPMs, then I'm happy all the way to the bank. That makes me very happy. I've hit just the sweet spot there in Meta if I get that. So that always makes me feel like things are running really smoothly. So that's my top 5. Let me go through them quickly again for you as I wrap up. My top 5 Facebook metrics inside ads when you are advertising on Meta that you should care about, that really matter in order of importance, is 1, cost per result, not ROAS anymore. Unique link click-through rate, not the overarching link click-through. No, that's rubbish. Unique link click-through. Number 3, content views. How many people are consuming where you send them versus how many left the platform to begin with. Number 4, frequency. How many times are your people seeing this stuff? Are you sending stuff to them far too often? Is your audience too big? Is your audience too small? And number 5 is CPMs. How much is Facebook charging you, the advertiser, to even be on their platform in the first place? And how much are they charging you for 1,000 impressions of your campaign? Fundamentally, that's how all campaigns are billed through Facebook. Like that's how your bill is even put together and your invoice is done with Meta. So CPMs are an important metric to pay attention to. So they're my top 5. I hope this has been helpful for you. I hope you found it valuable. Please send me an email and reach out. Let me know what you think about this. If these metrics seem reasonable to you, if there's a metric I left off my top 5 that you think should be there, let me know why you think I should have that metric in there. I'd love to chat about it. If you need some help with your Facebook ads and Meta and succeeding on the platforms, getting visibility for your small brand, then please reach out to me for an ad account audit. I can build a content calendar for you. I can manage your socials for you. But even more importantly and potentially valuable for you as a business owner is the time involved in getting the visibility of your brand out there. Like if you need more clients and you need more customers, if you're trying to grow online and it's just not landing, you're just not finding any traction, then reach out to me via email. Set up a free discovery call. You can go to my website and book a free discovery call for 25 minutes. There's no obligation for that or anything. We can just chat and I can give you some high level advice and then see if we want to work ongoing on a project or something. But let me support you in your small business, particularly if you've got a baby advertising budget and you're just not sure where to go with it, but you do know you need more customers, you need more visibility. I'm your girl. You can find me at Aussie Online Growing on Shopify.com.au because I'm in Australia. I'm in Adelaide, Australia. It's nice to be with you today. As always, you are the CEO. You are the driver of your steam train and you should keep learning at everything you do in your business. If you want to outsource this sort of work and just have it off your plate and not worry about it, and just let your new customer acquisition machine roll around in the background without you having to constantly stress about it, then reach out to me via my website so we can have a little chat and see if you want to work together ongoing. If you want me to do a small project for you rather than something ongoing to get your feet wet and see if it's something that works for you in your business and take that off your plate, I'd be happy to help out. I love doing this sort of stuff. I have grown 2 brands on social media in the last 4 years and I have sold one of them. And I continue to use social media as a key part of my new customer acquisition. And particularly, I use organics as a great way to stay engaged and re-engage with my current customers. But for sure, Facebook advertising does all the heavy lifting for my cold leads and my brand new customers who've never purchased from me before. Have a lovely day, everybody. As always, everything in business, hey, in e-com, if you're growing a business, looking to grow a business, if you're looking to scale, if you're bricks and mortar and you want to get online, if you're a small hobby business that wants to build online, as always, keep learning. I'll talk to you guys later.